Welcome back, everybody, to another video. Today, Saturn Ion. Saturn Ion. We're doing motor mounts, transmission mounts. I'm going to take you through step by step on all four. So like, share, subscribe, put a bunch of garbage comments below calling me fat or thank you or gibberish. Help me out with this algorithm. So let's get into it step by step. Step number one, pop yo hood. The front lower transmission mount is 3081. The rear transmission mount, the one that's by the steering rack, looks like this. Part number 3086. Here's the top transmission mount, part number 3291 from Anchor. If you have this cover, next thing we need to do is take off the oil cap so we can pop this off, put the oil cap back on so you don't drop anything in there, then take the cover, set it off to the side. We're going to come over to the air box, pop off these clips. We got 3 clips, 1, 2, 3. Pop those off. Then we're going to undo this clamp with a little flathead, and we're going to unplug the mass airflow sensor. Just sort of get that out of the way for now, because the goal is to get to this motor mount that's right under the airbox. The top airbox lid is clipped in with these little slots that go in these holes. So you need to pick it up a little, pull it towards the fender, and then you can pick it up, put it out of the way. Same thing with the air filter. Get the air filter out of the way. And now we need to get this airbox out of the way. Airbox has these little things here, and those slide in, and then there's a stud and everything down here. So when you go to take it off, you pull it towards the firewall, lift up, and then you can get it out like so. For this motor mount, you're going to use a 15mm socket on these 3, and then over here we have an 18mm for here and there. Support the engine by the oil pan after you take these bolts out, nuts out, and lift it to where there's just a maybe 1/16, 1/8 of an inch here. And then that means all the pressure is off of this, because you don't want to take these bolts here off with pressure on the motor going downwards. Then you'll strip out the threads. It'll be a bad day. So jack up the engine, take these out first, jack up the engine, have some gap here, take these 3 out, pull this out, put the new one, make sure there's still a gap here, put in all 3 of these tight, then lower it down with the jack. Just take the jack away, put in these 2 nuts, and then torque them down, tighten them up. Put the airbox back in, air filter, top of the airbox. Don't forget to plug in the MAF, and don't forget to tighten this clamp here that holds this pipe to the top of the air cleaner. Go in the trunk, lift this up, disconnect the positive terminal of the battery. On this side we need to get the transmission mount, which is down here. So we need to remove everything up here. We need to disconnect these connectors right here. So you push down there like so, and then you push and it pops it up for you, and then you just wiggle it off. I'm gonna have to use 2 hands to wiggle these guys off. Use a 10mm socket to remove this thing here that holds those 2 positive wires, and a 10mm to remove this off of this stud. Pull the wires off and out of the way. Use a 10mm to take this nut washer off. Use a panel popper, pop the harness off of here where it's connected to that. Use a 13mm to take out that bolt. Actually, you don't have to take it all the way out. You just have to have it loose, and then you pick it up and it slides through a bigger hole in the bottom. There's a 10mm weight on there that goes on this. So there's that one bolt here, and right here there's a bolt right there. So now we can flip this up and we can get to the top 2 and the 3 bolts. But first, we're going to take the 2 on the bottom out because they're going to be hard to get to after I take the rest of it off. So I'm going to jack this thing in the air. I'm going to go under, get the 2 on the bottom, and then I'm going to lower the car and get these other 5. Use a 13mm wrench. I'm using a ratcheting wrench, and take this one and this one out from the bottom. You're going to jack up this transmission just enough where you take a little bit of pressure off of that mount. So you want to lift it about 1/8 of an inch, and that will cover you for that. So we just have to sit here, jack it until we see it move. Use a 16mm to remove the 3 bolts that are going into the top of the transmission. With all the mounts in, I can't seem to get this to clear and come out. The flange hits the transmission. So I think the only way we're going to be able to do this is to take the center bolt out of this front one so the transmission dips down farther, and then that will clear the flange over here, so then I can just pull it straight out like this. But right now it's hitting. So I'm going to remove that center bolt on this transmission mount, support the transmission with a jack, and just lower it enough to get this out. So slide that thing in and out, put in the screws that go into the frame first, and then I jack this thing back up, tightened in this bolt here. Now all that's left is to go on top, put these 3 bolts back in, and then put all the wiring and all the stuff back where it was above this thing, which is going to be the most tedious part of this whole job. Everything's in tight and beautiful like. Put all this junk back together the way you took it apart. Once all this electrical's back together, go in the trunk, rehook up the battery, and you're totally done doing this mount. Need to use an 18mm here, this bottom one that connects to the mount. You need to use an 18mm here that goes through the mount, and then there's another one up here at the top of the mount. Remove all 3 of those, and this one will just slide out the bottom of the vehicle. Alright, I lied. There's 2 on the top. It was harder to get to, but it's doable. So there's one up top that cuts in, and one here, and one here. Make sure you clean off all the bolts, and then you just slide this one back in the place of the old one. Just like so. I start with that bolt, put it in finger loose, and then I'm going to grab the other bolts and I'm going to start them by hand, and I'm going to tighten the ones that go to the motor first, and I'm going to do this one very last. We're changing this motor mount up here, so we start with removing these 3 15mm bolts, and that removes the bottom of the motor mount. And then there's one bolt way up there that we're going to have to remove. Put an 18mm socket or wrench or whatever you got on this motor mount bolt. Take that all the way out, and then you'll be able to pull this motor mount up. Sway bar is in a way of you seeing everything, but you push it up and out, you rotate it, bring it down like this, and then bring it out. Done. Throw this shit in the garbage, put the new one. We just do reverse order, slide this up in here, Go like so. And then boom, just like that. Line up this motor mount so this little tab is over this black metal here. And then put these 3 bolts in. Tighten them down. Tighten them down! After putting those 3 bolts tight, we're gonna put this heat shield in between the exhaust and the rear motor mount. When we slide this guy through, I'm gonna tap it in with this little plastic hammer and then tighten it down. That's all there is to it. Hopefully I helped all of you out that watched to this point of the video. Saved you a bunch of money. If I did, please hit like, share, subscribe. Put another comment below. Since you already put one at the beginning of this video because I asked you, right? Put another one, and I'll see you in the next episode. Wrench on.